A very warm welcome, and we have a packed programme today, so let's get started. And whether it's cars, clothes, smartphones or raw material to make them, the vast majority of the stuff we buy is sent around the world by ship, and the greenhouse gases produced by shipping are being targeted at a UN meeting here in London this week. In fact, 90% of global trade involves stuff being moved around by sea, but the industry wasn't included in the Paris Climate Agreement, which the US, of course, is now pulling out of. However, it is significant because it creates about 3% of the global greenhouse gas emissions that are causing climate change, and that's why governments want to try and reduce them. One answer is to slow ships down. It means it would take goods longer to get from factories to shop floors. But one study estimates a 20% speed cut would reduce emissions by 24%. Tim.
Yeah, well, let's speak to Martin Koehring, as the head of the Economist Group's World Ocean Initiative. Shipping does slow down when oil is particularly highly priced, doesn't it? Are those figures accurate? And would there be a demand, you think, to reduce the speeds overall?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, if we look at the problem of greenhouse gas emissions from shipping, we should really kind of focus on the fact that we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to get to the target of 1.5 degrees of warming above pre-industrial levels. And if we want to do that, we have to go to implement both short-term measures and long-term measures. And in shipping, we have to introduce short-term measures, like slow steaming. It's going to have an effect because the slower ships go, the less they burn emissions and so on. But there are also other things that are kind of operational short-term measures, such as ship design and so on.
Yeah, and the airline industry is looking at this very closely. Is shipping doing as much?
They are, but because they have to, because the International Maritime Organization, as you mentioned, they have regulations. So basically what they did is that last year they said by the year 2050, the whole industry has to reduce its emissions by 50%. And actually, to meet this 1.5 degree warming target, they actually have to go net zero by 2050 if they want to meet their target. And as you have seen from the climate protest, the pressure is on the sector to do it. But they can't do it just with slow steaming. The figures are right, 24% reduction, but that's not enough. To get to net zero, there has to be a decarbonization of the whole sector, getting rid of carbon emissions whatsoever.
As ever, though, it's a lot easier to say than to do, isn't it? And to reach that target by 2050, a 50% reduction in their emissions, many will have to invest in new ships. That's a massive capital outlay. I mean, these ships last for 20 years.
That's right.
Or more. So they've got to buy these ships now, really, to meet a target in 2050. And is the technology there already?
We know that there are alternative fuels are there. Ammonia, for example. We know that, for example, hydrogen fuel cells and so on, they could be there. But the thing is, there's lots of other things to consider. For example, the fuel infrastructure in ports. If you want to fuel those ships with ammonia and hydrogen and so on, you have to build the fueling infrastructure, and that will cost a lot of money. And that's why the financial sector is important. There's something called the Poseidon Principles. 12 banks have come together to say, we are supporting this decarbonization of shipping. If you ship owners and ship operators, you report on what you're actually doing. So there has to be better monitoring, better accountability. And if you're out there in the high seas, that's very difficult. So everyone has to work together. It's both collaboration of the ship owners, the ship operators, the port infrastructure, and the financial sector to make this happen, to get to decarbonization, to get to net zero by 2050.
There's a lot to do, isn't there? Martin Koehring, thank you very much indeed for joining us out here today.
Let's now have a look at other stories in business today. It's being reported